Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Auto Auction Rebuilds. We're going to try to get an early start on this today because it's supposed to be 104 today. The temperature has been insane here lately. And so basically, let me tell you just a quick backstory on what happened with the S10 pickup truck, or sorry, the Sonoma S10 whatever. So I made the video about how great the truck was, how it had no problems, no check engine lights, nothing, and the truck was phenomenal. Now, I've had maybe a little bit of buyer's remorse since I made that video. I probably did pay a little too much for this truck. I bought it thinking this is something that I can use kind of like a yard truck, something I can take. Some of the properties I'm looking at are off-road, all right? I've been taking my Camaro. I really don't want to do that, so I thought I'll get the truck, I'll use it for a while, then I'll sell it, get my money out of it. Again, I'm not here to debate whether I got a good deal or a bad deal on it. I think I still got a fair deal on it. Wouldn't say a great deal, but it wasn't a bad deal. So here's the deal. The deal is Jessica and I got in the truck and I'm just cruising around, you know, and I was like, all right, man, it's a cool little truck because I've always loved the Sonoma /S10 /Blazer and everything. Love these trucks, man, always have. And the fuel gauge was pretty low. It was pretty close to empty. And it started chug, 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 chug. We're about a mile from the nearest gas station. I'm sitting there going, oh no. Oh no, rush to the gas station, and I mean, we barely coasted in. So what do? I think I put $15, $20 in the tank, and I'm like, all right, we're good to go. Put the key in the ignition. It hasn't started since. I did put some starting fluid in it, and it started with starting fluid, and I was like, man. The interesting thing about this, and this is something I didn't know, is this is a, it's not CPI, it's like central sequential port injection or something. It uses a combination of mechanical and electronic injection. So this has mechanical poppets like old school injectors. The pressure has to be at a minimum of 50 psi for the poppets to activate, to actually open. If the fuel pressure does not reach 50 psi, it's not going to run. Period. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So I hear the fuel pump running, and in my mind, before I realized it required 50 psi, I was like, I don't understand why it's not running. Maybe it's the spider injection or something like that. Well, here's what we've got, ladies and gentlemen. I went out and I rented, this is about $130. I rented it from O'Reilly's, but you can get this from any, you know, pretty much any auto parts stores are gonna have something like this. This is a master fuel pump kit. You really don't need all this stuff. I also have a scope on my Autel MaxiSys Elite, and we could check the armatures of the fuel pump and get a better idea of how quickly it's operating. We could set it on like 20 milliseconds or something like that, and probably I'd say about a 20 amp setting, but I really don't think there's any need for that. I'm 99.9% certain just from the fuel pressure gauge what's going on here. Now I've had this on charge all night and it doesn't look like it's actually taking a charge. This battery may not be good either, and these things are very sensitive about having the correct voltage. If you can't supply proper voltage to that fuel pump, well, she's not going to run right. So here's the gauge. All right, it's sitting on 0 and I've got it run all the way back here. There were no special adapters needed. It plugs on to the back down there where you see this. I think you can see this brass fitting right down there. Okay, now I'm gonna turn on the ignition, and ideally you want to see this between 50 and 60 psi. Well, when I do it, we're lucky to get about, I don't know, I'd say we get 45. It's close, but almost doesn't count on this. So we just cranked it over, and I just heard the fuel pump kick in, and it barely moved. We're still at almost 0. I'd say we maybe have 5 psi, so we can give it a few cranks. That should be sufficient. And as you can see, with all that cranking, we've only got 20 psi. Now last night I had it up to about 45, and then it climbed almost 50. And as it hit that 50 mark, it I don't want to say it started, but it attempted to start for a brief moment before it immediately died. Now, we could sit here and prime it all day long, crank, but the fact of the matter is this already tells me we have a definite problem. Oh, look at that. I took the key out and it primed it again, and now we're sitting at 35 psi. Either way, what we can tell from this is we're not getting enough fuel pressure at the injectors to even open them at all. So there's no sense in going any further. We know the problem is going to be fuel pump related or in the wiring. Now, chances are it's not the wiring. This is not from the Rust Belt. This truck is actually from around the Tacoma, Washington area. So it's probably not wiring. We will clean the ground, but I've already purchased a new fuel pump, which was about $225 for the pump and the unit. Be aware that the pump on this is different if you've got one of these between the standard cab and the extended cab. Oh, before I forget, I went out the other day, yesterday as a matter of fact, and I got the tags done on the Camaro. And it was only $1,400 and, well, I don't remember, $1,470 something, $1,480 something, $1,500 for the tags on the Camaro. You gotta love it, man. You gotta love it. They totally took me for a ride, the state of Oklahoma. Okay, so it comes with a new sock, and I think it comes with some new wiring as well. We'll open this up, and I think the way we're gonna do this, because I'm pretty sure the tank is almost full, I think we're going to pull the bed off of this. It's probably the easiest way to do it. Let's take a look and see what we get in the box here. So here's what we got here. We got the new wiring connector, which I really hate doing this, but it is what it is. And I think that these butt connectors have heat shrink on them, so we'll be sure to do that right. This is it. This is the whole fuel pump and sending unit assembly. And it even came with the new... I forget what that's called. That's like the pressure valve or something. It tells the computer if you have a vacuum leak in your evaporative emission system. It does collapse up and down. See, it's spring-loaded. And that new gasket is very, 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 very important. Make sure you put that on. So without further ado, we got to get out here and what is this stuff? This is parts for the Chevy Cruze. We're going to be rebuilding the Chevy Cruze soon. Back bumper, front bumper, the hood, and I got the grill on the way. Then we're gonna take the Cruze and get it painted. That car deserves it. It's been a good car, and God knows it's been mistreated because it's a rental on Toro. So what we've got is, because of how full the gas tank is, or how full I think it is, and the gas gauge is kind of off and on. So what we have, ladies and gentlemen, is 2 bolts on this side, 2 bolts on this side, for a total of 4 per side, which is going to equal 8 bolts that hold the bed onto the truck. Then we'll have some wiring under here that we're going to have to take care of to disconnect the tail lights from the truck. I don't know where that's going to be. There's a wiring harness that runs up in here. We may not even need to take all of this off. I really don't want to, as a matter of fact. Actually, I think all this wiring may actually just be attached to the bottom here. I don't think it's attached to the bed. I really don't know. We're just going to have to get under here and figure this out. As you can see, it's got almost no rust other than surface rust on it. It looks like it's been taken very good care of. So at a minimum, we'll get the bolts out. We can lift the front of the bed up, or perhaps maybe we can slide it backwards. We're just gonna have to figure it out. I've never done it this way before, but I'll be honest with you, I'm not even thinking about trying to drop this tank with all of this fuel in it. So step 1 will be to open this and take this cap off. Oh, the cap was already loose. How about that? And then we're going to want to take these 3 probably 8mm bolts out of here, so that when we move the bed, it doesn't try to rip the fuel neck out with it. Get those 8 bolts off. Let's see what we can do with this bed. So that was easy enough. It literally took maybe 10 minutes to get all 8 bolts out. And also these 3, these are 7mm. And that's it. Like at this point, and this is not a heavy bed. I don't know if I can lift this myself, but that's really, I only have myself today. So if you grab it right here, you can see how we can easily, see how I can easily lift that. And that's one-handed, boys and girls. One-handed, I can lift this bed up. And if you get your knee under it, you can really get some leverage here and really start moving it out of the way. So that's what I'm going to focus on right now, is seeing if I can get this bed up and moved out of the way enough so that I can have access to my fuel pump. And we can work on getting that sucker out and putting a new one in. We'll also clean the ground connector while we're down here as well. So before we get any further into this, there are some wires under here you're gonna have to disconnect. This is your harness coming from the truck, right? And it runs back to your tail lights, your license plate lights, things of that nature. This plug needs to be disconnected. It plugs in somewhere right up here like this. Get out of the way. Plugs in right here, disconnect that. You're gonna need to take all the wires, and you've got some like this one that attaches up here. You got another one. This doesn't even connect to anything, but it attaches up here as well. You want to make sure anything that's going to be attached to the frame, some of these I probably didn't need to take off. It's my first time doing this, but anything that's going to be stuck to the frame, including ground wires. You've got one on each side, right, hopefully you can see right here. All right, one there. And again, this is another one that doesn't connect to anything at all. I went ahead and disconnected the license plate lights from the bumper, and then we're going to tuck all of this up here. You got another one. This doesn't have any connectors that go to it, but there is a ground wire that goes same place right up there. You want to make sure you get all that disconnected, get it tucked out of the way so you can lift up the bed and move it without snapping any of your wires. And I've got a couple extra danglies here because someone had a camper shell on this, and that camper shell had a light in it, so I'm gonna have to undo that wiring and make sure it's capped off very well. But once we tuck that under there, we should be ready to lift up the bed and get to the fuel pump. All right, so just kind of a place for me to get started. What I've done is I've lifted up the bed and I've got it resting on the frame. Now there's no way you're gonna have enough clearance in there to get to that yet. And you definitely don't wanna stick your hands in here with it resting on the frame. That's very dangerous. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna see if I can maybe lift this up a little bit more, maybe scoot it that way some. I'm not, honestly guys, I've never pulled a bed by myself without any special tools or anything. So I may actually have to go wake my brother up and get him out here to help me pick this bed up and take it off of the frame. I don't think this is something I can do by myself. Here's what I'm thinking, maybe scoot a little more towards this side. Lift it up from the lower end. Sketchy. There you go.
Here we go. All right, hold on.
Dude, your problem is you're not in the middle. You need to be moving toward the middle.
I'm trying to find a good place to grab her. Okay, I got it down.
Well, how about that? I'll tell you something, this little bed is pretty dang heavy. And the way this frame is at a downward slope here and goes way up here makes it very difficult to get off, even with two people. We can get a better look at everything under here. Now that we can see it all though, you get a better look at the shock absorbers, the rear differential, which isn't leaking, and the muffler, which still looks to be in pretty decent condition. We've putting this thing back on is gonna be the fun part. So now that we got it off, what I am gonna do is there's a ground strap right here, and you can see it's caked with stuff. I'm gonna clean this ground strap up. We're gonna take these connectors off, clean all this up. I don't want any of that getting into the fuel tank. Get these lines off, which should be just quick disconnects. You should be able to just pinch them, pinch, and then this one, I think you pinch the plastic. These will come right off. We'll get all this cleaned up and get ready to pull that fuel pump. I think you need some snap ring pliers, which I've got some under the hood, to pop this ring off, and the fuel pump should come out. At that point, put it back in, wire it up, should be good to go. All right, these are very easy to get off. Like I said, the connectors just snap off. So do the quick connects right here. You gotta have some snap ring pliers though. I highly recommend these. You get them down here in these little grooves, and then the fun part is trying to get it out. you got to squeeze it together, and it'd probably be better to come in here with a flathead screwdriver or something, get up underneath it, and pry that sucker out. I got one right here, so I'm going to see if I can do that for you right now. Moves around a little bit. I'm going to take a flathead, get right up under here, and try to pop. There we go. There we go. Once you got this side out, you pretty much just kind of pull it. There you go. Snap ring is off. Pull it out from the top. And at this point, we're ready to pull out our fuel pump. Let's take a look at how this sucker looks. You want to try to remember the orientation that it came out. Or she is, there's a hose right here that's kind of hung up. Should have our float. Well, we got some gasoline on here. I'm gonna try not to spill it. There we go. Very, very gentle here. Try to dump the gasoline back into the fuel tank here, so we don't spill any on the concrete. All right, you can see that sock here is disgusting. I'm gonna take this rag and I'm gonna gently go around the edge of this and try not to get anything in the fuel tank. We'll be ready to drop the new filter, or the new pump, back in. All right, so to put this back in, you start with your float and get it down there. And there's a nice little notch here that lets you know where your sending unit is supposed to be. And it does compress, it's spring loaded. So you gotta kind of keep your lines out of the way here. And this is just kind of and I do have my new gasket already on the sending unit itself. And then we just, the lines are already trying to go back on their own. Then it's just a matter of pressing this thing in. I may have to put a little bit of lubricant on that gasket. All right, so we put a little bit of engine oil on here to help ease the installation of this. But she's fighting me. We'll see if this makes it any easier on us here. Let's see how this goes. Boy, there she goes. She's going. And there it went, my clip. Great. Boy, she is a feisty one, ain't she? Goodness gracious, come on now. It seems like it keeps trying to go in cockeyed here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to seat this gasket down in the tank by itself. We'll try it that way. Then I'll try to press this in. I think that worked. I mean, it's still hanging up on the edge here. So we're having lots of fun trying to get this new one in here. She is fighting me every step of the way. This should not be this difficult. It really shouldn't. Wait. I got it. Holy crap. I finally got it. Okay, so with one hand, do not, under any circumstances, let this thing pop back up. Hold it down. Start your snap ring, which needs to be divided right in the center here. Start getting it. You're going to probably need your flathead screwdriver, which I dropped under the truck. We'll get the snap ring pliers, and let's hope that we can do this, because this thing is just, she has been fighting me to no end, man. All right, I'm going to start the snap ring up here towards the top. I'm going to try to feed it right there. Okay. Watch your hands, Tim. I got to get over here. Thank you, dude. Okay, I've got part of the snap ring in. I'm gonna see if I can compress it and get the other portion of it in as well. Come on, old girl. Okay, there's the top. We're so close, guys, so close. I may just try using my flat blade here to, there we go, to get her the rest of the way. There we go. Now, was that the right way to do it? Not a chance. Not a chance at all. That wasn't even close to the right way to do it, but we got her done. She is in place. Whew! Give yourself a big pat on the back. Now that that fun part is over, we get to wire this up. We got a little wiring diagram here. Ours is 2001 and older. This is a 2000. So we've got the new connector, which is a GT280, and the old connector is a MetraPack 150. So you got to cut the old connector off, just like so, and you're going to just splice in the new one using these heat shrink butt splice connectors right here. Real simple to use. I got a heat gun over there. Once we get all these spliced together, we will heat shrink this down and plug it up. Then we'll fire it up and make sure it runs before you go putting your bed back on. Quite honestly, although the bed is very heavy, I think it's easier to pick the bed up and take it off than it is to take the tank, lift the truck up, drop the tank down. You got to get all these lines out of the way, everything disconnected, or you risk breaking. These lines can get brittle. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have everything spliced together. I did not heat shrink it yet because I'm not going to finish this up until we prime it up. I'm going to get this extension cord out of the way here. We're going to prime the fuel system. Everything is connected. The battery's connected. Just to show you we haven't done it yet, the gauge is at 0. So the battery's reconnected. I'm going to prime the fuel system, and we're going to see what kind of readings we get on the gauge there. And this is your typical GM, where you gotta kind of play with it. it's the jiggle. Eventually, it will come on, just like that. I didn't hear it. I don't hear the fuel pump at all.
I don't either. No clicks or hums.
Interesting. And we've got no fuel pressure at all. I followed the instructions. No, we've got 0 fuel pressure. The interesting thing is the fuel gauge is working, so we know we at least got a ground in the fuel. I'm really frustrated. So now I feel like a real idiot after sitting here and getting all upset. It wouldn't run because this wire, this will help you guys out if you run into this problem. This black wire right here, this is the ground for the fuel pump, ladies and gentlemen. Without that connected, ain't gonna run. You have no ground. I did cheat without you because I've been kind of diagnosing, but I still hear, you could hear like some air in the lines. Prime it up a few times. Fuel pump only runs for a couple seconds. Let's take a look at our gauge here and see where she's at. Oh yeah, here we go. With the key on, engine off, we're sitting at about 55 pounds. And that is plenty to start. She's running, but I don't have the mass airflow. There you can see we're pushing 60. It's probably mad because I don't have this connected. So the mass airflow sensor is getting a bad reading. I gotta get that hooked back up. Once we get that hooked back up, it should run a lot better. It's starting to rain, so we're gonna get this all put back together, get the bed back on, call it a day. And just like that, voila, it's like magic, right? Done. So what do we got here? We got a Camaro SS Axleback 3-inch dual tip exhaust. Uh-oh. Well, I guess we better get to it, but that's going to be in another video. Yeah, I'm going to make you wait. Let's fire this thing up real quick. Make sure everything's still good. The bed's bolted on, all the wires are done and everything. And I let it idle for a while. I got to get this ignition fixed too. This is just frustrating, man. I call it the GM wiggle. And sometimes it helps you just use another key. This is ridiculous. There we go. There we go. Let's turn this air conditioning off. I've got the e-brake on. Yeah. There we go. All right. Everything seems to be working properly. Uh-oh, mailman just came by. Everything is good. Looks like it's due for an oil change. Make sure we get this thing an oil change before we do too much else to it. I'm happy with it. I'm a little disappointed that we had to go and do that fuel pump, but at the same time, that's a common wear item. It's nothing too serious. So with that said, I do have a theory about this truck over here. My theory is as follows. I noticed on the Carfax report right before it got donated, it spent its whole life in Tacoma, Washington. Or not necessarily Tacoma, but in Washington state in general. Spent its entire life there. It's been there since new. And it just recently came to Oklahoma. Why, I'm not really sure. And I don't know how it ended up here. But it did. And I noticed on the Carfax, like just a few months ago, this thing had all kinds of work done to it. New fuel filter. There is a clue. New spark plugs. New plug wires. New distributor cap. New rotor. I get to thinking about it. This thing was exhibiting the symptoms that I had experienced right before it crapped out on me completely. What's it like? Not necessarily backfire, like pop, 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 kind of like a backfire through the intake. You know, it was starting to run really rough. It was losing power, and then eventually it just completely died. I think it was giving the guy or gal that owned it before the exact same issues, and they took it to an incompetent shop that misdiagnosed it. Now, the interesting thing is they used AC Delco plug wires. It's got AC Delco distributor caps, so chances are they went with all the parts from the dealer. The serpentine belt looks practically new on it as well. Somebody misdiagnosed this thing. It wasn't all of that stuff. Now, that's not to say it didn't need it. Of course, that's at 134,000 miles. Of course, it needed a tune-up, but that wasn't the problem. And I think after they spent a ton of money having the tune-up done on this, they just gave up on it. You know, they sent it down the road, and that's where we got it. So, as I said earlier, I don't think I got a bad deal on it. Not at all. I don't think I got a necessarily great deal on it either, but I would say I got a good deal. We're in it for, well, we're in it about $3,400 now. That's a lot for one of these, but it's really hard to find one of these trucks. It still has relatively low miles for the age. Keep in mind, this is a 2000. It's almost 20 years old. It's got 134,000 miles on it. It's obviously been well cared for. Many new suspension components, new tires. Now it's got a new fuel pump, new fuel filter, full tune-up. Runs and drives great. Cold air conditioning. It's not falling apart. It's actually in really good condition. We'll go give it a wash, clean it up. We'll come back in another video with the exhaust for the Camaro. And hopefully with a bath, it'll look a little better. Maybe we'll even put a wax on it, you know, some polished wax, make it look real nice. Carfax says that this thing's worth $5,000. Retail, of course, and I'm not so certain of that. I think if we pushed our luck on it, we might be able to get 42, maybe 43, but I don't think we're going to get more than 4,300 out of this when it's time to sell it. But for right now, I'm going to try to put it back on the road, hope that it runs and drives for a while, gets me around, and use it as a car to take down some of these dirt roads as I'm looking for a shop. I'm tired of taking this thing down gravel and dirt roads. In fact, I really hate doing it. But that's what this is for now. I appreciate all you guys watching. If you enjoyed the content, please consider giving the video a thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, hey, consider hitting that subscribe button. I would truly appreciate it. Don't forget, you can follow me on Instagram, and you'll find out stuff that I'm doing days before it happens on YouTube. And that's at Auto Auction Rebuilds on Instagram. I guess that's it, folks. Until next time, stay safe out there. I will catch you all very soon in the next one.